This Ag Business Update brought to you by American Implement. Indebted to the past, committed to the future. In a moment, Washburn's Dr. Roger McEowen.
S&S Trailer Sales, with 2 locations in Ness City, Kansas, is where everybody goes to buy or rent trailers. They feature the all-new, all-aluminum Mauer grain trailer with all of the electric options, the easy-to-load detached trailers, and a huge stock of header trailers. At the West location, you'll find bumper poles, goosenecks, and oilfield specialty trailers, along with flat and utility beds for pickups. S&S Trailer Sales in Ness City and on the web, but remember, you do have to spell out the "and."
The cost of everything has gone up dramatically over the last 75 years. With one exception: keeping electricity affordable.
Wheatland Electric, delivering energy for life, your Touchstone Energy Cooperative.
And joining us once again is Dr. Roger McEowen, who is an Ag and Tax Law Specialist at the Washburn School of Law. Time for our monthly conversation. Good morning, Dr. McEowen.
Good morning. Good to be with you, Ken.
Okay, we've got 3 things we want to tackle, and boy, these are quite something. You probably got a lot of phone calls. I know I've received a lot of phone calls and correspondence on this Farm Act that's in Congress. Tell us about that.
Yeah, and you're right, Ken. I have been contacted quite a bit. I wrote about it in my Substack publications, which people can subscribe to. But yeah, we started the tax schools for K-State across the state, and we have focused on the Farm Act for practitioners, and some farmers attend those, but primarily tax preparers, and they've gone through it as to what might occur. This was introduced within the last couple of weeks by Representative Kelly out of Mississippi, and it has really good, strong bipartisan support. Now, I know some think that it's not going to pass, but I do think it may not pass as is, but it'll pass. And I'm convinced it's going to pass during the lame duck session. I think it will, and it might be rolled into an omnibus piece of legislation. So there will be some version of this passed, but it's designed to provide emergency assistance to producers of certain crops for the 2024 crop year. And that is specific. It's just for the 2024 crop year. And the way it's worded and the formulas involved in it, I think it could result for large payments to a lot of farmers.
Well, it looks like, and I may be in that camp where, I don't know if it's going to pass or not, but I think if it does, it's going to be probably in an altered form, just because somebody else has got to put their fingers on it. But these are large numbers, and I know talking to some farmers, they are really kind of hoping and kind of needing it to meet the needs they need to finish out the year.
Well, and I would tell you the bankers are in the same view of it too. I just finished a national or a state annual bankers conference in the Dakotas and went through this. And boy, the bankers were encouraged by this too. But all crops are eligible for the payments. And so the payments, however, depending on the type of crop, are calculated in different ways. For your 8 major crops that are listed in the legislation, they have one formula, then the other crops have a different formula. And the major crops in Kansas would be corn and soybeans and wheat is in there, and sorghum also. That's 4 of the 8 major crops. And the formula on this is pretty straightforward. The one thing that I like about the bill, frankly, is that you have Congress specifying to USDA the formula. It's not left up to the bureaucrats to mess around with the formula. The Congress has specified that. So I think that's a great aspect of it. So what they're doing is they're just taking the USDA projected cost for a crop, for a particular crop, and then subtracting off the national projected returns. And then they're taking that sum, multiplying it times your eligible acres, which is your planted acres in 2024. It's not your base acres, it's all your acres you planted in 2024. And then take that result times 60%, and that's your payment.
Okay. Well, it sounds like if you kind of know your numbers, you can make those projections, and God bless the Farm Service Agency people that I know are going to be in charge of making that happen, right?
Based on current prices, the payment per acre for corn would be $103, and for soybeans it'd be $48, and for wheat it would be $82.
Right.
Sorghum's a lot lower than that, but nevertheless, that's a pretty good payment.
Absolutely. Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law is joining us. It's our monthly conversation about things in agriculture going through our legal system. We're going to take a break. Got a couple more to talk about. We'll do that when we return.
Would you like to see something done about high gas prices and low unemployment? Western Place Energy in Campus, Kansas is doing something about it. They're a proud part of Growth Energy, America's ethanol supporters, and they employ 38 people and will be adding more following the expansion. Ethanol fuel not only reduces the cost of regular gasoline, it's good for the environment and keeps money right here in the United States while supporting local rural jobs. Western Plains Energy, doing something for the future.
Wolfter Construction and Irrigation has been around a long time, and a lot of folks have trusted them to design, build, and service all sizes of commercial and on-farm storage for grain and equipment. Wolfter is also known for their outstanding irrigation division, where they stock a complete selection of nozzles, regulators, drops, gear drives, electrical, and structure components. Looking for an electric motor? Wolfter has a large selection in single and three-phase. Next time, reach out to the pros who have decades of experience at taking care of business the right way. Wolfter Construction and Irrigation.
And Dr. Roger McEowen for the Washburn School of Law is joining us. And Dr. McEowen, a couple of things we want to talk about. And one deals with, oh boy, the EPA and their draft strategy. They came out to handle some situations. This is meeting some resistance.
Yeah, it is, and it probably should. This is the result of one of these sue and settle type situations where you had an environmental activist group that sued the EPA for supposedly failing to meet its obligations under the Endangered Species Act. And so the EPA came out with this draft strategy. And I would emphasize it is a draft strategy. So this is not, they're not implementing this yet, I would say. But we've got to look at what the draft strategy is so we know what might be coming. And many farmers would be impacted by this. What it is a pesticide review process, and then how that applies to the application of chemicals to farmland. And they say it would apply to 264 million acres of farmland that were planted to crops in 2022 that used herbicides and other pesticides. So because there's a lot of endangered and threatened species that have a substantial portion of their habitat on private land, this becomes a big deal. More so in other states perhaps than Kansas, but how they apply this is, we'll have to wait to see. But they could have, what they have in here are what they call spray drift mitigation procedures. And that might require the planting of a fence row, a hedge row, the use of hooded sprayers, the reduction of your application rate, depending on the level of risk. And then I think the real challenge about this for farmers, if they implement this, are the buffer zone requirements. Potentially every ground spray could require a 200-foot buffer, and every aerial application a 500-foot buffer. And so if that is put in place, I think that would result in a significant acreage not being treated due to the possibility of downwind spray drift.
Okay, and that's one that, boy, it takes a lot more than time we have to discuss, but something we definitely need to take a look at. The other thing we want to wrap up with is talking about the build that wall down on the southern border and possible NEPA violations.
Yeah, not possible. The court found a NEPA violation that the Biden administration violated environmental law by not conducting a required environmental impact statement upon discontinuing the border wall and also discontinuing Trump's Remain in Mexico policy. And of course, what NEPA is, it's been in for over 50 years. And it says that when the government undertakes a major federal action, they have to consider the environmental, ecological effects on that action. And that's what an environmental impact statement is. Well, you have ranchers along the border, and the lead plaintiff in this case is an Arizona rancher whose ranch basically got trashed by people illegally trespassing across our southern border onto his ranch. They cut his fences. They stole water out of his wells. They left trash behind, which his cows ate and died. And he sued and said that there was no environmental impact statement done by the Biden administration before they made those decisions. And the court said, yeah, you're right. Not only does that apply when the government undertakes an action or proposes to undertake an action, that also applies when they discontinue a major federal action. And since they didn't do that, he's entitled to damages now.
Wow. All right, Dr. McEowen, if folks want to learn more about what we've talked about today, I know you've written about all of these. How can they find more?
Well, there are various places they can find this. Right now, the law school is redoing the website and plugging mine in, so mine's kind of hard to find. It's actually dark right now. But I share this with Ag Manager over at K-State. That's through the Department of Ag Econ. So the Ag Manager website is where you can find this at, and on my Substack, which is McEowenAgLawandTax.substack.com.
Okay, very good. As always, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We'll talk to you next month.
Thank you, Ken.
Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law. He is an ag and tax law specialist, joins us monthly to talk about agriculture and our legal system. We'll take a break. Back with more in a moment.
When you've had a best friend for over 50 years, you develop a trust. And the Scott Co-op has been a trusted rural friend since 1957. A co-op keeps money in the area, doing business for and with their members. And that helps keep their hometown thriving with keeping money in the community. Scott Co-op is not just an elevator. It's the rural way of doing business. So, when you see an elevator, remember your friends at Scott Co-op.
1030 KBUF has ag information for you weekdays beginning at 6 with Agriculture Today. Then it's the KBUF Morning Show until 11 as we have newsmaker interviews as well as other information, ag news, market analysis, that all-important weather, and a whole lot of things to help you make good decisions on the farm and ranch. You can follow along on our social media pages or listen to KBUF or any Western Kansas broadcast station online at westernkansasnews.com. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching.